Hello and welcome to the Ken and Medway Medical School Virtual Open Day. We're here to tell you everything you need to know about studying at KMMS. Over the next couple of hours, we'll be talking to teaching and support staff, as well as incoming and current medical students, to get a flavour of the course and a taste of life on campus. And whether you've got questions about the course, accommodation, or where best to soak up student life, you can send those in via our YouTube and Facebook Live comment panels, which are on screen, and we'll get those answered for you by our many panelists who will be joining us this morning. Now, if you have any more personal questions regarding your own application status, you can send those in separately at admissions@kmms.ac.uk. Now, as we're all obviously social distancing and remoting in from our various homes, we may encounter some technical issues, so do bear with us if we have to sort any of those out. Now let's begin, and I'm delighted to say our first panel today, I'm joined by Founding Dean of KMMS, Professor Chris Holland, Deputy Dean and Undergraduate Programme Director Dr. Anna Romito, and Dr. Scarpa Skuman, KMMS's Assessment Lead. Thank you all very much for joining. Professor Holland, let's go over to you first.
Thank you, Cameron. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our virtual open day. And as an example of just how unusual our circumstances are, I'm talking to you from my home office. And just to get the disclaimer in first, my 4-year-old daughter and PA is on the floor behind me and may well pop into view. A bit like that journalist on the BBC who was joined by his family and wife unexpectedly. So welcome to our open day, and I can't tell you how exciting it is to be at this point in our journey, because our first cohort of students arrive in just under 12 weeks' time. And if we can just go to the presentation. So here we have our one of the buildings that we're going to tell you about, and which we're currently building at the moment, and this is going to have its anatomy centre and simulation suite on the Christchurch campus. And Christchurch is one of the 2 universities that KMMS is part of. Our medical school is one of only 3 joint medical schools, the other one being Brighton and Sussex Medical School, and one other being Hull York, up in Hull and York in the northwest of the country. Next slide, please. So this is one of the things where we start out when we think about opening a new medical school. We really want to make sure that our medical education is excellent and first class. We believe that research should absolutely be part of our mission. And the sort of person that we want to come to our medical school should be someone who really takes those values to be true, but wants to be personally excellent as well. When it comes to the model of medical care, in tune with most 21st century healthcare providers, we really do believe that the person is at the center of everything that we do. And we have a team of healthcare professionals and other care providers, plus the patient's own social network surrounding the patient, making sure that they're at the center of everything we do. Medicine and healthcare are undergoing huge amounts of changes at the moment. And one of the things that we're really looking to think about how our medical school and the program and the educational offer that we have goes towards is making sure that you will be ready for the 21st century, whatever that may hold. So in the next slide, we then think about what is it that over and above the facts of what we teach, what are the values that we're trying to transmit to our graduates? We think that being a doctor at the moment literally involves being brave. I'm an intensive care consultant, and over Easter, I spent 3 weeks working full-time in an intensive care unit, treating patients who have a disease that we've never encountered before. But bravery goes much further than simply throwing yourself into the firing line of healthcare. Bravery is about advocacy for patients, advocacy for groups that are underrepresented or maybe suffering in healthcare and lifetime outcomes because of inequity within our society. We need to be kind. We need to be kind to the people we work with. Unfortunately, as an intensive care consultant, I have to do things that are quite unpleasant. And trying to do those with humanity and kindness is terribly important to me personally. We must always be respectful to the people who come to us looking for help, and we should always be respectful to the other colleagues and colleagues from not just medicine but other healthcare professions that we work with. It's very easy to feel ground down by the hours that we all work, the things that we experience, but having a passion for what we do and having a vocation for what we do keeps us going through terribly dark times. Collaboration is the secret to modern healthcare. There is not one individual person who makes a difference to patients. It's the team working together that makes it different to patients and the ones that they care about. And that collaboration is part of what we want to transmit. There's no question that 21st century healthcare is going to be an exciting place full of lots of new changes, new opportunities, and new healthcare therapies and interventions. And so welcoming that innovation and working out how to best apply it to patient care is absolutely essential to being a 21st century healthcare professional. And indeed answering some of the questions that we need to think about to deal with new challenges, which are only too evident they can come out of the blue, requires curiosity that never ends till the day we stop practicing. Next slide, please. So how do we enact our values? Every organization has values that we then turn into a mission statement. It's very, very clear that one of the things that we at KMMS want to do is we want to make sure that the people who come to study medicine with us draw from the widest possible cross-section of society. And what that means to us is that we really want to think about how we would give people the opportunity to be doctors who wouldn't otherwise get an opportunity to do that. Health inequalities are all too well recognized, and the impact of COVID-19, and particularly on BAME groups, is just one example of how healthcare inequalities can manifest in ways that we really don't fully understand at the moment when it comes to COVID-19. But health inequalities run through our society in all sorts of different ways. The way that we express our gender or our sexuality can affect our lifetime outcomes. If we have a hidden illness, such as a mental health condition, that can literally shorten our lives. If we come from different socioeconomic groups or different cultural backgrounds, such as being not a resident normally of this country, but a migrant into our country, all of these things can result in health inequalities. And we want to make sure that our graduates understand how those health inequalities manifest in a person's health and well-being outcomes. When you come to study at our medical school, one of the things that we value highly, and which Dr. Anna Romito is going to explain in a short while, is how our program provides high-quality placements as much as possible from the outset. So we want to make sure that our placements are high quality, and we're already in many conversations with future placement providers to ensure that that's the case. And we really want to make sure that we have parity of esteem in our placements when it comes to the disciplines and specialties such as primary care, mental health, and acute medicine. All of this comes together in a curriculum that we believe will be innovative and, as I said before, prepare you for the 21st century practice. Next slide, please. So this is a picture of me just over Easter in my full PPE, personal protection equipment, going on to the intensive care unit. And that's a picture of me doing the other full-time job that I've had for the past few months, being Dean of a new medical school. But like I said earlier, no one can do this by ourselves. And in the picture below, you can see the large and rapidly expanding team of people who've come to create KMMS and who are equally passionate as I am for the opening of the school and the values and mission that I've just described. Our recruitment thus far has been spectacular. We continue to progress through GMC accreditation, having had a visit just last week, which went well. And as I've said, we are continuing to work even through the trials and tribulations of lockdown to progress and make sure that we're ready to open on the 7th of September of this year. Next slide, please. So these are the key people in our senior leadership team. You're going to meet Dr. Romito, Dr. Chan, and Dr. Skueman later on. Stephanie Green is my medical school manager and one of my two right-hand women. She's not joining us today because she's taking a well-earned break, having worked very hard to prepare for the GMC visit. but this is the team that's ultimately responsible for the delivery of the medical school and the experience that you'll have. Next slide, please. But the wider team, and we really do try very hard to make it clear that we're a community in our medical school, and that community is made up of both professional staff as well as academic faculty. And this is the picture that we had literally just a few days before lockdown happened. This was the first time the team had assembled in this way. And there's a couple of people here who, when we took this picture just before lockdown, it was their first day working with KMMS. Next slide, please. As I mentioned, we're building some buildings, and we're going to hear more about those through the course of the day. But we have buildings which will give you the opportunity to work together in collaboration with other healthcare professions, as well as other professions and disciplines such as engineering, technology, digital engineering, and so on. Next slide, please. These are the previous slide was architects' pictures. These are the buildings as they actually are at the moment. So despite lockdown, the builders and the contractors and our colleagues on the sites and estates and facilities are continuing to make sure that these buildings are ready for you when you come to join us. Next slide, please. And when you come and join us, this is the curriculum that you'll experience. So at this point, I'm going to hand over to Dr. Ramita, who's going to explain to you a little bit more about the program.
Very much, Professor Holland. As you said, handing over to Dr. Ramita now to tell us a little bit more about the course.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. I reiterate Professor Holland's thanks for you joining us. I'm really pleased that you're interested in our medical school, and I'm going to give you a bit more information about our programme, about how we have constructed what's inside it and how we're going to deliver it. And I'll be available later on this morning to answer any questions that you might have about that. So as a quick introduction to myself, I'm a GP, and I'm currently working in Faversham, which is near Canterbury, and I've been involved in KMMS for the last year, so it started in July 2019, and very much enjoying this journey. I'm going to also have the same disclaimer as the Dean. I've got 2 small children at home, so apologies if they come and say hello during the course of this morning. So kicking off, if I can take us back to that next slide that we've just seen, thank you very much. So I'm going to start off by talking about how with your curriculum. So this is a curriculum in overview, and it basically describes the 5 years that we've got of our programme and the different modules that we have within them with the credit structure. I'm not going to spend too long on this slide, but I think there are 1 or 2 key things that I'd like to highlight. We have in years 1 and year 2, we have a combination of modules that span the entire year and modules that are done in chunks and then you move on. The chunked modules are mainly based around body systems, so the heart, lung and blood module, as example, would cover the cardiovascular and respiratory systems and hematological systems. And over the course of year 1 and year 2, you'll go through all of those different body systems so that by the end of year 2, you've got a really good overview. Running throughout those 2 years, we've got these long, thin modules that span the year. So the first one is Community Chem in Practice. This is placement-based module. So during the course of the year, you'll have 6 separate weeks where you'll be going out on placement, and they're staggered across the year so that at each one, they are then linked with what you're looking at. For example, when you're doing Foundations of Health and Disease, when you're looking at heart, lung and blood, when you're looking at nutrition, metabolism, excretion. And so the kind of cases and situations that you'll be seeing on placement will then link back to what you're learning about in your other modules as well. We've got 2 other year-long modules in year 1 and year 2, Professional Development and Person-Centered Practice, and Skills in Clinical Practice. Professional Development and Person-Centered Practice is helping to prepare you for those placements that you're experiencing and also help you debrief from what you're seeing on those placements. It's really a module to work up some of the concepts that the Dean was referring to in terms of patient safety, in terms of being brave, in terms of being innovative, looking at what some of the new technologies are that are happening that you're seeing out on placement, how you're going to apply some of the ethics and law that you're learning on campus to those scenarios, and understand your own sort of concepts around issues like morality and your interactions with patients. Your skills in clinical practice in years 1 and year 2, again, you're going to be learning about this in a body systems way. So learning, for example, how to examine the cardiovascular system when you're doing the module in heart, lung and bloods, as an example, but really giving you the foundational skills to be able to listen to your patients, ask them the questions that you need to help you reach the diagnosis, talk with them to be able to negotiate together the management plans that you think are reasonable, and also have the physical and kinetic skills and procedural skills to be able to do your examinations and the procedures. In year 3, we've got some modules that start on campus at the beginning of the year and then will continue whilst you go out on placement, but you'll be spending a lot more time on placement in year 3. We're looking at 16 weeks for medicine and then 16 weeks for surgery. And during this time, you're going to be out based on the wards in the medical wards and facilities of the acute trusts that we've got in Kent and Medway. And likewise, the same for surgery. Surgery will cover not only the operating theatres, but also peri-operative care, so recovery rooms, anaesthetic rooms, and the surgical wards as well. Whilst you're on those wards experiencing those teams that are looking after medical or surgical placements, you'll also be having time with teams specifically looking after elderly patients and their specific bespoke needs, as well as patients with mental health problems as well. And that will be a combination of the patients that you're seeing on the wards who might be, for example, admitted under the surgical team but have mental health problems, as well as patients who are specifically being looked after by those teams alone. During the course of year 3, you've got some modules that again span the course of the year. So working from the bottom up, scientific basis of medicine is more of a deep dive to what you've already learned in year 1 and year 2 in terms of the system-based modules, so that you've got a more in-depth knowledge of the conditions that you're seeing on the wards and the scientific underpinning for that. You'll also be learning more about drugs and about the management of those conditions. So you've learned about the science about them, and you're also learning about common approaches to treating them. And again, in the clinical foundations course, we're also looking again at some of the ethics and the reasoning that you have behind the decisions that you're going to be taking and the decisions that you're observing people making on behalf of the patients that you're seeing together. In year 4, we've got what we call specialist rotations, where you'll be rotating through a number of medical disciplines such as pediatrics, women's health, infectious diseases, ophthalmology, neurology, rheumatology, and so on. And you'll experience some of this anyway in year 3, but again, this is an opportunity for you to spend more time with those specific departments. Dotted throughout that is going to be a series of weeks spent in general practice and in public health medicine. So you'll be spending some time in the hospital, and then you'll be spending some time in the primary care setting. And we're going to be matching those up. So for example, if you're doing a pediatric rotation, when you're doing your week in general practice, you would be looking at how GPs would manage those same pediatric cases, at what point have they referred them into the hospital, and how they're looking after them when they've come out of the hospital, and speaking with families where they've been having both parts of that, because we've all been patients and we are all likely to experience and meet people who've experienced both being looked after in the community and in the hospitals. And because those teams need to work really closely together, we think it's important that you experience that together as well. During the course of year 4, you get to undertake a research project. This is a large independent project. You'll be supported in year 3 to identify what you want to do it on and to make a plan and a proposal for that. And that will be undertaken throughout the entirety of the year, supported by our Lead for Scholarship as well as other key people within the team, so that you have something of sizable and hopefully publishable output at the end of that. In year 5, we've got a revisit to general practice again and to more unscheduled care, so psychiatry, mental health from an acute point of view, and also A&E as well. So you'll be supported for those experiences from what you've seen in year 3, but in year 5 we anticipate you having more confidence in those spaces and being able to, in a sense, make of less predictable situations as well. You have some of your exams before going out on your elective, which is typically taken under Cs. This is a 4-week period. And again, there's some sort of key learning that we would expect all students to have from that. But this is opportunity for you again to make some choices in your program and look into areas of the world or areas of practice or disciplines that you're particularly interested in before you return for a session shadowing the juniors that you'll then be taking over the jobs from in August. We describe this as an integrated curriculum. What that means is you'll be experiencing placements and campus-based learning at the same time, so that you'll be really able to pull the learning that you've got from both of those learning opportunities to the other one. And we're calling it a spiral curriculum because we're building progressively on concepts. So in what you're learning in year one is not going to stay in year one. It's the building block, it's the foundation for what you'll then be seeing in your placements in year one and year two, in your placements and your further learning in scientific basis of medicine, as example, in year three, and so on. And it will progressively build over the course of the 5 years. I've mentioned that there are a couple of choice elements in the programme. I've mentioned particularly in year 4 and year 5. There are some other ones that are projects in year 1 and year 2. But also for those of you that want to, there's the opportunity to intercalate between year 3 and year 4. And intercalation is the opportunity to hold your medical programme and your training and then go sideways to that and undertake an additional degree, which can be a bachelor's or master's degree or potentially higher degrees, before then resuming your medical studies, and that will be in an area related to medicine, but of your choice. Can I ask us to move on to the next slide, please? So in this slide, I'm just going to give a quick overview about how we're doing this. So I've described the curriculum structure, and now I'm going to talk about how we're getting there. The Dean has already talked about the General Medical Council. The GMC have been approving us, and our latermost visit was 2 weeks ago, where they are very happy with the progress that we've been making. The 2 universities that will be awarding the degree, they also have a validation of their programs. We've been going through that process. We've undergone that twice now, and they are satisfied again with the program that we've described, and we've had that level of scrutiny to make sure that it's innovative and exciting, and as we're intending it to be. We've got a modern curriculum structure. Dr. Scarpa-Scrimmon is going to be talking about this in more detail, about the assessment side of things, to make sure that you are confident and competent in the skills that you're going to need when you're out on awards. We've got some innovation opportunities for you, some of which I've talked about already, and we'll be happy to answer some questions on that if you have them. We're looking in our modules starting from year 1 to have opportunities for you to learn alongside other healthcare students as well. Canterbury Christchurch and the University of Kent both have students on other courses that are very relevant to medicine. And as you're going to be working with these people once you graduate, I think it's really important that those team working opportunities and skills are developed from the get-go. And we're really emphasising in our programme the need to communicate with patients and have those interpersonal skills and adequate exposure to the disciplines that you'll need when you're in the postgraduate space. In terms of placements, the Dean's mentioned again the high quality of our placements. We've already made the allocations for your year 1 placements in December. We had a lot of interest from the GP surgeries that would be taking you for your placements in year 1. And we had objective criteria for who would then be able to offer those placements to you, and really sort of selected the GP surgeries in line with that. So that we feel confident that you're going to get really good experience from people who are experienced educators and understand the particulars of our programme and what you need to be getting out of those placements. And we've got a comprehensive faculty training and development plan in place that has morphed slightly, as I'm sure you're aware. There's going to be, and there is, a lot more online delivery in all programmes in schools and in higher education. And we want to make sure that our faculty are really excellent at that. And the good thing is that because we've got so many of our team members on board now, is that we've got this time to prepare to make sure that that is happening exactly as we expect our course to be running. If we can go on to the next slide, please. So the Dean again mentioned we're not doing this in isolation. This is very much a collaborative effort. We are sitting within 2 separate universities who are working together and both have resources and skills that we are calling upon and that are feeding very much into this programme. We've got a partner medical school, Brighton and Sussex, whose curriculum we are able to look at and discuss with them and align with, but we're also able to innovate and take things a step beyond where we feel that practice in the modern NHS is going to require that. We've got a really good working relationship with them and very much appreciate their support. We've got our NHS partners, so we've mentioned about the acute trusts, the hospitals that you're going to be going in new placements for. We're in discussions with them about your placements for years 3 to year 5, and also in general practice, the primary care networks, which are collections of general practices. We've been speaking with them for your placements in year 1. And I think it would be amiss to not mention patients here. So they are very much part and parcel of that partnership with the NHS. And with that, we're looking at having patients involved in the programme. They will be anyway, because you've got placements so early on. But as an example, we've been surveying local residents in Kent and Medway and asking them specifically what it is that they would find important, what it is that they think is key in medical students and in the doctors that they want looking after them, so that we can put in their views so that you can feel confident that your course is going to be responding to what individual patients are asking of healthcare and can really meet their needs. We're liaising with government and local agencies as well. There are a number of different initiatives for health as a concept, being broader than just ill health and medicine, and we're making sure that we are aligning with that in terms of their wider strategies for improving health across the population of the region. Next slide, please. In terms of content, we are being guided first and foremost by the General Medical Council's outcome for graduates, and I know that our assessment lead will be talking a little bit about this as well. And we're also aligned with Brighton and Sussex learning outcomes as well. So underpinning everything that we do is making sure that our course will prepare you to meet all of the outcomes that they'll expect of you as graduates. Starting from year 1, there's no part of our programme that it does not in some way align with at least one of the outcomes, and often more than one. Ask you to move on to the next slide, please. In terms of that content, there's quite a lot, as I'm sure you're aware, and there's quite a lot to cover in a medical curriculum. You've got 5 years of study, you've got lots of different aspects of the human body and humans and the society in which they work and the structures in which we can do healthcare. So what we have done is we've described our programme into 10 separate chunks of that, which we're referring to as fundamental tracks. Each one of these things we feel is essential for you to be a good doctor. So you need to have good anatomical knowledge. You need to have good physiological knowledge and knowledge about pharmacology. But at the same time, you also need to have really good professional and clinical skills and understanding about pathology and so on. So each one of these is really important. And again, like I mentioned about the General Medical Council, every part of your programme, we are aligning with one of these elements here. So you can feel confident that everything feeds into something that is directly relevant to what you're going to need as a graduate. And that by having these in these tracks, again, we're helping describe the curriculum to yourselves, to the General Medical Council, how different parts of the curriculum will link in with each other. So we've talked about it being a spiral. So we look at anatomy. We can say anatomy is taught here in year 1, then it's taught here in year 2, it's taught here in another part of year 2, and it's taught here in year 3, and so on. And you can see progressively how that one concept is built upon in that spiral curriculum. Each one of these things will be covered in overview and to an adequate depth to prepare you for graduation, but they're all available for you to deep dive. I've mentioned some of the projects and opportunities for you to do that, and we've got student selected components, which are the projects in year 1 and year 2. So if you're particularly interested, say, in ethics and law, then there are some projects where we've got titles where you can then either choose a title or identify a new title yourself with a supervisor to say, I really want to explore this area in more depth, it's of particular interest to me. Because we know that with a medical degree, there are loads of different ways that you can then take that and lots of different career options, and we want you to be able to explore that. Next slide, please. This is a specific example of some of the content from a particular lecture in Heart, Lung and Blood. So this is looking at particularly pathology and some of the public health areas, but you can see within this that we've got covered in one lecture, we've got some elements of population level health, so epidemiology, the study of the diseases across the population. We've got risk factors and prevention. For that, we've got some of the pathology, some of the physiology of those same conditions, some of the treatments, which might include pharmacology of that, and also the support of palliative care. So again, another approach to pharmacology, but again, bringing into that some of the clinical skills and communication and support that you'll be giving for patients, as well as some of the ethics and the law around that as well. For every single learning event, what we've done is we've also said, what have you learned already and what will you learn next? So when you're looking at a lecture, you and the staff delivering the lecture are fully up to speed to say, right, we're coming into this lecture with some knowledge that we've attained in other parts of our program already. And that might be another module in year one, or it might be the same module in year one. And forgive me, because we've used acronyms there. So FHD stands for Foundation of Health and Disease, and HLB, Heart, Lung and Blood, as example. And then we've also got, what are you going to learn next? So what am I going to do with this information? Where am I going to take this? And what's going to be the next linked thing that is relevant to what I've just learned here? So again, so that you can see the journey that you're going to be taking here, and that every single learning event has been thought through to why it's relevant and necessary, and how it takes your learning forward. Next slide, please. In terms of how, in terms of delivery, we've got a number of different learning styles that we want you to be experiencing during the course of the program, because we feel that that's going to give you the richest experience here. We've always described our program as being blended. By that we mean that we're using a variety of different learning mechanisms, some of which are online and some of which are going to be face-to-face. That is very much the trend in medical education and higher education, and to reassure you, that's the trend before the COVID-19 pandemic has come into play here. We're hoping that through exposure of team-based learning, where you're working in teams to come and solve some problems on particular cases, case-based learning, where you're working through some vignettes and some scenarios where you're applying knowledge, and interprofessional learning, you're looking at real examples and you're working collaboratively and independently to find problems, about solutions to the problems that you're being faced with. Through lectures, we're expecting to help share that information with you that you need in terms of the knowledge and the content, and through tutorials helping you unpick that so that you can then sense make and discuss and challenge any of the issues that you're learning about. Through simulation activities and placements, we hope that you can then put into place the skills and practice in a safe environment, and then put them in place in your placements. And your e-modules, again, are going to be, again, a variety of ways to both learn content, but also have some interaction in that online space. The ratio of this will depend upon the guidance that we get from the universities and from the government in due course, but we feel confident that we can get the balance right so that you have a really rich experience at the medical school. Next slide, please. And this is my last slide, and it's just a quick snapshot of a couple of weeks from our year one program. This is really to give an overview to say that we anticipate within your program some key principles, which is we're looking to schedule things between 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. All lunch times are the same so that you've got opportunities to interact with your whole cohort. Wednesday afternoons are protected. We've nominated sports, but this could be for any personal endeavour or activity. And what this timetable shows is that you've got a number of different modules that are happening concurrently. So you might on any one day or any one week experience more than one module. That is deliberate, and that is because of the interplay between some of the modules where you're learning about clinical skills and you're learning about content, and then you're applying them to patient and real scenarios. Some of the gaps that you see in that timetable there are going to be genuine gaps for you to do self-directed learning, but they are also because this is a single student view. So other people in your cohort will have a slightly different timetable where, say, one of those activities would be group-based and it would only be part of the cohort at any one time. But really, it's just to give you a quick overview of that interaction that we anticipate you having between your modules to give you that full flavour, that real integration. So I hope that's helpful in overview, and I'll hand over now to our assessment lead, but I'm going to be around later on this morning, and like I said, I'm very happy to answer any questions that you might have. Many thanks.
Thank you very much, Dr. Amito. Now it's over to Dr. Scarpa Skuman to tell us a little bit more about the assessment.
Good morning, everyone. It's wonderful for you to join us here. Thank you for the opportunity to share a little bit about the assessment plans. I'm Skarpa Skuman, lead for assessment. I'm originally from South Africa, so if you wonder where the accent is from, that's it. And I work also as an A&E doctor in East Kent hospitals in Ashford. So East Kent is one of the big trusts in Kent, which we also train our students going forward. If we could pop to the slides, please, that'd be great, colleagues. So our assessment strategy is certainly developed in concert with all our partners in delivering the medical school. The Kent and Medway Medical School vision and the values you've seen earlier, bravery, innovation, collaboration, has all been part of setting up a really front edge state-of-the-art assessment system. We also work closely with Brighton and Sussex Medical School towards their particular styles of assessment. If our students require innovation, which is something about moving to another medical school if something happens to our own medical school in the current climates, but it's not very, very unlikely, but we have to be aware of that. We also work in concert with Kent and Medway's the Canterbury Christchurch University and University of Kent, which are the two local universities which are partners, and this medical school is a partnership between them. And then the General Medical Council, our regulator, and a very important component of ensuring rigorous and patient safety for our patients in our assessment system. Next slide, please. So you've seen this slide before in this presentation, which is the Outcomes for Graduates document from the General Medical Council, which basically breaks down all the critical outcomes that we need to produce in our graduates between the professional behaviors and skills and knowledge areas. And you will see when I go through the next slide where we actually assess these different areas. Next, please. So the assessments at Kent and Medway Medical School can be summarized and basically is broken down into these three areas like I've just showed you from the Outcomes for Graduates. We do professional knowledge assessments. We call them applied knowledge tests, AKTs. And in years 1 to 4, there will be AKTs in all the years to test your knowledge, to make sure that you're ready to progress. We use a sequential testing model, which is something really exciting. Basically, that comes down to using a two-part assessment process to determine the outcomes for modular knowledge. We therefore don't need to use any resits in the summer holidays, which is great because you can have holidays in the summer then and don't have to come back for any resits. So we conclude our assessment process during the academic year, which is something really innovative and really great for students and staff to complete everything during the year and not having to come back in the summer. If there's any questions on sequential testing model, I can take those later in the Q&A. The two formats we use in the AKTs for testing is multiple choice questions and very short answer questions. Both are done on computer-based testing. So we don't use paper, we use computer-based testing in our computer labs. So that's being built and finalized at the moment. So all our AKTs are done on computers. We also, in the final year, the students will sit the AKT of the General Medical Council's medical licensing exam, the assessment, the MLA, and that's in final year only. And that's the national exam for all medical graduates in the country coming in 2023. Our first graduate class will be in 2025, and they will also do the MLA, and we've incorporated that into our final module assessment in finals. So there's not an additional exam, it's part of our exams, and that will be an MCQ only exam in final year. We also in final year have the written papers assessment where we check skills like can you write a prescription, can you do a discharge letter, can you refer a patient, can you critically appraise a piece of literature. That's an assessment we do in final year. Then we have some prescribing assessments in 3rd and 5th year to check you're safe with prescribing medications, which is a critical skill for a doctor. We also have a few essays, very little, and a few reports during the 5 years that needs to be submitted for scholarly and interpretive knowledge only mostly. So that comes down to when there's a bit of scientific learning and scholarship of a particular area, and a report must be submitted for that. We also have case-based discussions in the student placements in their clinical years of years 3 to 5, where they discuss cases that they've seen in the placements they're at. With regard to clinical skills and professional skills, we have OSCEs, objectively structured clinical examinations, which is very well known in the medical field. We have them in years 1 to 5. At the end of the year, the OSCE must be passed to progress to the next year so that we can assure that our students' clinical and professional skills are up to scratch as they progress. And the final year OSCE in year 5 is the MLA OSCE, is the Medical Licensing Assessment OSCE, which will be delivered by KMMS and accredited by the GMC. We also use our e-portfolio, where there's workplace-based assessments of how you learn your clinical skills and apply them and get feedback on them in your placements when you go through that, as I mentioned, in your placements. That happens in years 1 to 5 as well. We start quite light in year 1 and build up to quite a strong e-portfolio profile in years 3, 4, and 5. And then the last, but probably the most important one, is the professional values and behaviors assessments. And that's we capture in the e-portfolio in every module where there is learning happening, which is basically all the modules, where we also incorporate a professionalism component to your e-portfolio, where we evaluate and monitor behavior and engagement and attendance of students in our modules to make sure that they progress, develop, and are competent and the caring professionals with a great professionalism that we want to see from KMMS students as they graduate. In the OSCEs, we also assess values and behaviors as part of the OSCE process. So students, that's the last slide from me. It's not a long story. Assessment is not the main focus at this stage for prospective applicants. Very happy to take further questions. We look forward to seeing you here. And I know that assessment can sometimes be seen as a bit of scary things, but it is important to ensure patient safety for our patients out there, have a lot of feedback for our students on how they progress, and be fair to students on the progression processes we have. Thank you very much. We can move on.
Dr. Schoeman, Dr. Ramita, and Professor Holland, all thank you very much for those introductions to the course, hopefully giving those watching a little bit of a flavour of what to expect at KMMS. And just about you all watching, thank you very much for tuning in. You're tuning in from South East, Midlands. We've even got someone watching in Tanzania. So thank you all very much for watching and sending in those questions. Do keep them coming in. We've got plenty of opportunities to answer them. There's a lot of admissions questions. We'll have Dr. Philip Chan on shortly, who is the admissions lead, and he'll be able to answer some of those. Starting off our questions, we've got one from Sarah. Professor Holland, this is probably a good one to come to you about as the Dean of the school. Sarah's asked, what stands out to you in a personal statement?
Thanks for the question, Sarah. We don't use personal statements as significantly in our admissions process as a lot of other medical schools do. However, that's not to say that the things that would go into a personal statement aren't important to us. What we're looking for when it comes to our selection process holistically is someone who is more rounded than just the STEM subjects, someone who has taken an interest in vocation and public service, and someone who appreciates that the practice of medicine is more than just technical competence and knowledge expertise, but is also empathic and caring and understanding and able to put themselves in a patient's shoes, as it were, when it comes to understanding the social difficulties that they encounter as well as the healthcare difficulties.
We've also had a question coming in from Brad. This one for you, Dr. Amito. Brad's asked, do you teach anatomy using dissection or prosection?
Thank you for the question. So we're planning to do both. We have a head of anatomy who is starting with us in July, and we are planning to do both of those. The relative proportions of that will depend upon the specific part and stage that the students are at in terms of year 1 and year 2, but also the body part, and also in terms of any restrictions that we may or may not have according to the government guidelines for working in those spaces there. But the plan is to do both of those.
That'd be good to hear, Brad. Thank you very much for sending in that question. Dr. Schoeman, just a thought, kind of students generally, many will be worried about assessments. I know I certainly was as a student. How would you reassure students going into all those various assessments?
Well, we want to make sure that our students feel supported. So we do formative assessments, which means we give them an opportunity like a mock run to get used to the formats we use. For instance, for the AKTs, we do module tutorial tests in our AKT modules where AKTs are used. So the students get a look and a feel about how the computer system works and how the question types go, and they get feedback on that. In the OSCEs, we give the students mock OSCEs. We call them formative OSCEs. The data is not used to make decisions about moving forward in the course. It's just about feedback to students on how they're learning and progressing, and to demystify the experience of the OSCE, because it is quite a new way to assess students, because it's you and an examiner in a space where you have to perform a task, and students need to get used to that. So we use formative assessments a lot to give students an opportunity to get used to the exam processes. And then the feedback after the assessments, we call them summative assessments, the ones that count, the marks count towards progression. We give the students a lot of feedback after the first part of their exams and the sequence process, the sequence testing, to give them a sense of how that went and how they need to improve for the second part. And then we put the data together at the end between the first and the second part to make a decision if they passed the modules.
So there's a lot of opportunities there that you pointed out to get support from staff. What about in terms of opportunities with contact hours? You mentioned there that there seems to be quite a lot of contact with academics and staff. So it's not just independent learning. There is a lot of that contact.
Yes, absolutely. So we rely on students having close relations with staff, having an open door policy so that students feel that they can anytime come and ask us questions. We know we're a new medical school. There's not a lot of other students to ask yet. And therefore, we are so keen to engage with students and be there and provide that support. There's a personal academic tutor program in place. So every student will have a personal academic tutor as a first port of call to direct them to other staff members. But yes, the students will have close contact with staff. There will be online learning. There will be opportunities to have face-to-face learnings. So there's a variety of engagements, but we want to foster a culture at KMMS that's really built around strong staff and student relationships and mentoring and apprenticeship learning as we role model what it means to be a good doctor in the 21st century.
Those at home watching to hear. Dr. Schoeman, thank you very much for joining this morning. We're going to be joined by Professor Holland and Dr. Ramito a little bit later on to answer your questions, so don't worry if you've not had those answered yet. There's plenty of opportunities throughout this event. In a minute, we'll be talking to some incoming students, and as I said earlier, we'll also have admissions lead Dr. Philip Chan on. But first, we're going to be taking a short break.
My name's Edith, and there are many reasons why I chose KMMS. Predominantly though, I chose it because of their huge focus on patient-centered care. Now, family members that have been carers and nurses have ingrained into me that it is vital for patient treatment and patient care and well-being, and that good bedside manners is what makes a good doctor. The fact that KMMS values this and wants to focus on this and put this into their curriculum is massive. And the fact that their other values also coincide with my own is one of the many reasons why I chose KMMS. I honestly truly believe that with these values in hand, KMMS will make us brilliant doctors that truly care about our patients.
I applied to KMMS for a number of reasons. The first reason for me, as a graduate, KMMS looked at me overall. They took into account my personal experience, my qualifications and my score, and put them together to give me the opportunity to study medicine with them. Secondly, I feel that being part of a new medical school is something that really excites me, and being provided the opportunity to be part of that first cohort, drive a new, innovative and forward-thinking medical school combining that with research, technology, innovation, I think is something really, really exciting, and I'm really looking forward to studying medicine at KMMS in 2020.
I chose Kent and Medway Medical School because I was impressed that they had such a high focus on student well-being and support, and I was excited that I would be able to partake in placements in the local community, and that one day I would be able to contribute to Canterbury and East Kent as a medic when I graduate.
Hi everyone, my name is Neha and I'm a graduate student starting at Kent and Medway Medical School in September 2020. I chose KMMS for several reasons, but mainly because as a graduate I will benefit from the clinical placement offered from the first semester. I also really appreciate the outreach programs that KMMS offer. Along with the other students, we'll be able to encourage sixth formers to study medicine at KMMS in the future.
I truly believe and trust that this school will shape me into the doctor that I want to be, thanks to the values they promote and the importance of patient interaction within the curriculum, and also the wide range of support offered by the school. Moreover, as a student coming to the UK from France, it was important for me to choose a school that wouldn't make it too difficult for me to get back home, and from the beautiful city of Canterbury, I think I will have achieved that.
The reason why I applied was KMS was new, meaning that they could take the old and mix it with a bit of the new. And that really was apparent to me when I went to the applicant day, because they really talked about the demands of the NHS now as a doctor and what it may look like in the future and how they want their KMMS graduates to be prepared for that. Also, when I went to the interview and the applicant day, I really just saw how much people actually wanted you to succeed and do your best and cared about you from the beginning, and that's why I chose KMMS.
I knew I wanted to go to a place that would make me the best doctor possible, so I spent a lot of time researching different medical schools, and the things that I was looking for initially were an integrated course. I just think that's the best way to learn, it makes sense, dissection and a nice city. So Canterbury had all of those, so I went to an open day to see what it was all about, and I just got a really good feeling that was so supportive and caring. I guess it's hard to gauge online, but it was different to other medical schools in that way.
Well, we heard some of the new cohort coming in that short clip, and I'm delighted to say we're joined by a couple of that new cohort, Samahat and Mimosa, who we'll be talking to in just a sec. We've also got the admissions lead, Dr. Philip Chan, who will be poring over all those many applications that you'll be sending in soon. Let's come to Samahat first. Let's start with you. Would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself and why you decided to choose KMMS?
Hi, so my name's Samahat. I'm just finished year 13. And I chose KMS because I really liked that they had a variety of different teaching styles. They have everything from lectures to team-based learning sessions to personal academic tutors. And this really appealed to me because I felt like my personal needs as a learner and my learning style was catered for and fully supported. In addition, KMS uses a contextualized admissions process. And what that means is everybody who's got an offer here, and I know this because I've met most of them, is here not really because of their situation and environment, but rather in spite of it. And having a learning environment where I'm surrounded by individuals like that, who are resilient and intrinsically motivating, is really exciting because it means that we can push one another and I can constantly exceed my limits. Yeah.
Thank you, Samahat. Mimosa, what about yourself? Tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey to KMMS and what attracted you to the school.
So I'm Mimosa and I'm also one of the KMMS offer holders. So I'm actually a graduate who's coming onto the 5-year course, and I wanted to do medicine since I was quite young. However, I went on to do a biomedical science degree followed by a master's. At that time, I was also working as a healthcare assistant within a hospital. And by the time I finished my degrees, I noticed that I
still wanted to become a doctor and study medicine. So I came to KMMS's first ever open day back in 2019. And I was really excited and I was inspired by the staff and the medical school. The facilities were state of the art, the libraries were outstanding, the GP and hospital simulation suites, which were shown to us through animation, were very appealing. And personally, I got a feeling that this was the place for me, which I didn't get when I went to visit other universities.
Quite a journey you've described there, Mimosa, and obviously it sounds like KMMS has really left an impact on you. Finally, Dr. Philip Chan, would you like to tell us a little bit about your background and your role at KMMS?
Hello everybody, I'm really happy to meet you. My name is Philip Chan. I'm the lead for admissions here at KMMS and I've been here for about a year. I retired from a surgical career at the University of Sheffield and Sheffield Teaching Hospitals in order to take up this new challenge, and it's absolutely brilliant. I do miss surgery a bit, and I did sign up to go back to the NHS during the outbreak, but they kind of never called me. So I'm still here at home, and I'm going to tell you about admissions. I see there's a ton of questions there. I'm going to try and address most of them during my presentation, but there'll be some left over. So first slide, please. Everybody knows that medicine is very competitive and that you're going to need high grades to get in. And that's foremost in the mind of many of you and evidenced by your questions. And that means that that creates a selection problem for us. The reason is selection always leans towards high exam results. But in the UK, we have an education system, and even more so in Kent, where those high exam results are all concentrated in a small number of schools, particularly selective schools and private sector schools. And taking medical students from that background reinforces some of the inequalities in our society. I mean, this graph shows the death rate and also the health life expectancy rate in various social classes, at the top from the most deprived to the bottom, the least deprived. It's unsurprising that most of the illness is at the top, but because of our selection system, most of the doctors are at the bottom. That means that many potentially strong young people who belong to families that come from the top of that graph have diminished chances of entering the profession. Next, please. So therefore, we adopted a really very brand new approach. Because it's brand new, there's a lot of misinformation out on the internet, and a lot of people will say things about our selection system which just are not true. And mostly they say it not because they want to mislead you, but because they don't understand it. And they don't understand it because it's new. So this is what we do, and you'll hear it from me. We do operate minimum standards, and we are quite strict about it. And the minimum standards for pre-A-level students is their GCSE. For post-A-level students will be their A-levels. For students who are taking a degree but have not completed their degree, it'll be their A-levels. And for students who've already completed their degrees, it'll be their degrees. And that's because we don't use predicted grades at all. The evidence shows that these are inaccurate and they're biased, so we don't use them. We do use the UCAT admissions test. We do operate a minimum threshold. And if you don't achieve the minimum threshold in any particular year, your application will not advance to the next stage. In 2020, the minimum threshold was 2,420, which is equivalent to the 4th decile of UCAT. That is, if you are in the top 60% of UCAT scorers, that means even the ones slightly below average would then pass on to the next stage. And then we would wipe the slate and then look at the admissions again through a new way. Our standard A-level conditional offer is AAB. This is the lowest in the country, and is actually the same as the discounted A-level offer that other medical schools give to their contextual candidates. So we don't have contextual candidates. Instead, we contextualize everyone. as Samahat said, this is to recognise that that all our people have travelled different distances to be able to get to the stage where they're eligible to apply. It is to recognise the fact that your educational background produces disparities in your exam results. And it's to recognise that often our best medical students, and I've experienced that at other medical schools, right, are not the ones who had the highest A-level or GCSE grades. So we contextualize everyone, right, looking at your achievement against your school average. There will be details posted at the end of this presentation which will point you to our website, where there are detailed entry requirements for the 2021 cohort. And I hope that most of your questions will be addressed there, although I will take some verbally. Next slide, please. However, it's not all just about grades and what we do with the metrics. We want students who are high achieving in context, who are motivated and resilient, as the Dean said, but also who have values. And these are the values that the NHS enshrine. You've already seen the values that we swear by in KMMS. Right? Essentially, these are the values for a fantastic human being. So if you are a fantastic human being, we really, really, really wanted to know you. And we are more impressed by what you've actually done and less impressed by what you say you might do, or you will have done, or you would have done if you had the chance. So, show us your lives, and we'll treat you fairly in the admissions process. The final slide is about scholarships. We were very proud to have raised 26 scholarships for our initial entry cohort of 100 students. So nearly a quarter of our students will be receiving some kind of financial support from KMMS. And the support ranges from an absolute free ride for 5 years down to smaller one-year grants. And they're all available again on our webpage, and there's the link there. We also have a few music and sports scholarships, which are separately administered for high achievers in those areas. So let's go to questions. I know I've still got a lot of questions to take, but I'm sure that we'll give it best effort.
Absolutely. Everyone watching at home is sending in those questions. They're coming through thick and fast, and do keep them coming in on YouTube and Facebook, and we'll look to get them answered. Dr. Chan, let's start with you. We've had quite a few questions about UCAT. Jessica, Ellie, Emma, many others asking, how exactly do you use the UCAT, and do you have UCAT cut-off scores?
Yes, we have a UCAT cut-off score. As I explained, it was in the 40th percentile or 4th decile last year. That was not the lowest in the country, but close to that. So that's how we use UCAT. Everybody has to sit it, and you do have to score above a threshold in order to pass on to the next stage of admissions.
Okay, fantastic. We've also got a question from Taiwan, who's in London. He said last year, how many people applied for international places? And I guess it's just a general question on international places, really. How many are available to prospective students?
We do have international places. The competition was actually slightly less than for our home and EU places. Home and EU students are still treated the same, even though Britain has now left the EU. The international numbers last year were 42 applied, 10 were interviewed, and 6 offers were issued, of which 4 are firmly accepted and 1 was insurance accepted.
Okay, as you know, as I said, we've got people tuning in from all over the world and all over the UK, so very interesting for them to hear that. Samahat, for you, how difficult did you find the KMMS application process, and how would you describe it for those prospective students?
I think it's similar to how you would apply to any other medical school up until the MMIs. I didn't find it particularly difficult to manage all of that because I had quite a good support system in school, luckily. And I think for the MMIs, they're quite different at KMMS. And my advice for all of you is to just be yourself. And I don't think there's really any way you can prepare for those MMIs, but they're good fun. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. We heard that from Dr. Chan as well. Just people being themselves, and that's what's going to shine through in those applications. Mimosa, for you, you talked a little bit about your journey and getting to KMMS, and obviously coming to visit as well. What was it that first attracted you to the possibility of studying here?
So, as I said before, it was mostly the open day. I decided to come with an open mind and, see the university for myself, and seeing all the facilities throughout the tour, but also seeing how passionate the staff were and just how much they believed in KMMS just made me feel like, I want to study in a place where the staff really believe that I could become a really good doctor. And I feel having that support system in place is really important in a medical school. But also the fact that not many unis actually offer clinical placements at weeks 7 and 8. And that really stood out to me in the open day. The fact that I would be able to go into a GP with a few other classmates and be able to have that patient exposure really early on in the course.
You kind of spoke about it a little bit there about some of the highlights of the course that you're really looking forward to. What else are you most excited about when you start the course?
Well, I'm really excited to getting to know everyone. At the moment, we've got a WhatsApp group, a Facebook group at the moment, and all the offer holders are starting to get to know each other, helping each other out with the scholarship applications, with student finance. So we're already starting to bond quite a lot. And also just the fact that 5 years is quite a long time. So, it's trying to move into a new city like Canterbury. I've been living in London all my life. So the fact that I will be moving to a new city with, people I don't know well enough yet is quite exciting. And I'm really looking forward to it.
I'm sure some of those feelings are similar with you, Samahat. What are you really excited about starting the KMMS course?
I'm really excited to get hands on deck and start the placements and do the dissections. I'm also, as Mimosa mentioned, really excited to meet everybody who I've already had a chance to talk to, and they all seem like really interesting individuals. And also, Kent has really cool sandy beaches and really nice, niche cafes with nice study areas. So I'm looking forward to being touristy and exploring all of those as well.
Very, very exciting opportunities for all. As I said, do keep those questions coming in on Facebook and YouTube. Dr. Chan, we've got a question from Sim who's asked, will there be places in clearing this year?
That there will be, and we've actually run a really successful admissions procedure this year. We have more than 90 firm acceptance, and we still need to make some room for people who've insurance accepted us, and that's for 100 places. And so we anticipate that we will be full. We anticipate that we'll have negligible places in clearing.
And about those offers generally, we've had a couple of questions generally about places. What has been your number of applicants to places offered, and do you have a set number of places for graduate applicants?
We don't run any quotas of any kind. We had the highest number of applicants to places ratio in the country at 1,500 applicants to 100 places. Fair to say that this was our first year, so many of those applicants did not meet our minimum standard, and in reality the numbers were more like 11 to 1 than 15 to 1.
And also, you spoke a little bit about it earlier on, that international students are, of course, welcome to apply, as well as local and EU students. Lianka's asked, is there any preference for local students?
no, we don't operate any preference at all for students from Kent or Sussex or the locality. However, of the 26 scholarships, because the conditions of scholarships depend on the donors, a lot of them have local preference built into them.
And just coming back to Samahat and Mimosa, from the students' perspective as well, Samahat, you were talking about you're looking forward to doing some of those touristy things and experiencing that student life. Obviously, KMMS, you're going to be part of that first cohort. How excited are you to be part of that community in Kent and Christchurch?
Well, I'm so excited. I don't think words can express how excited I am, especially because of the COVID-19 situation. We had to end school early, so it's just been like 2 months where I haven't studied anything, and it's kind of driving me mad. I have nothing to do. I think it's a real big advantage that we have a small cohort number. It's only 100 people, and that means that I'll get to know everybody really well, and I'm really looking forward to making bonds that will last me a lifetime. And the student life, I have a friend who lives in Kent, and I've heard that the student life is amazing there. So I'm really looking forward to what they have to offer. The societies are great. I've had a look. I signed up to 100 in my head already.
That's going to be good. Balancing that with the course as well, and just making the most of that student experience is obviously going to be fantastic. Mimosa, for you, we heard Samahat say earlier that her kind of tip to applicants was to just be themselves. What advice would you have for prospective students about getting through that application process and getting that offer from KMMS?
Well, I think it's important to make sure you start early. So, get that UCAT preparation down, get all the work experience that you have had. Even if you haven't had any work experience, think about times when you've been in a certain situation and you've shown communication skills, and reflect on that. And just have, sort of everything ready so that when it's October 15th, this year it might be a later deadline, you've got everything ready in place for your UCAS application. Personally, for me, I felt that the most stressful time was up until that date, because once you send everything off, you're just waiting to hear back for whether you've got an interview invite or not. So I would definitely say to start early. That's the most important tip I can give.
Start early, just like what we've done with our virtual open day. Mimosa, Samahat and Dr. Chan, thank you all very, very much for joining in. Dr. Chan, you'll obviously be back later on to answer those that myriad of admissions questions that we've got coming in, and do keep them coming in. We will get them answered a little bit later on, but we're going to be on to our next panel shortly. But first, here's another short clip. Welcome back to the Kent and Medway Medical School Virtual Open Day. And keep those questions coming in. We'll get them answered over the course of the rest of this event. I'm delighted to say we're going to be hearing a little bit about the student perspective. Jane, first, let's come to you. Would you like to get us started? Introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your position.
So I'm Jane Lawson. Good morning. It's really exciting to be talking to potential students from 2021. My role is student support, student life and wellbeing manager, get it right, student life and wellbeing manager for the medical school. So it's my role to support you with everything from a lost bus pass to signposting you and supporting you if you might need counselling. So we're here for the entirety. Anything you need, you come to us.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Jane. Rebecca, you're a fourth-year medical student at Brighton and Sussex. Would you like to tell us a little bit about your experience at medical school?
Of course. So hi, everyone. My name is Rebecca. I'm currently a fourth year, like Cameron just said. I started medical school as a graduate. So I did a degree before medicine and then started here at Brighton. I've absolutely loved the experience, especially once we got into clinical years. I think probably because I had done a degree before, but I'd always known that I wanted to do medicine. I really, really enjoyed getting into the hospital and having that patient experience, which has now been a bit interrupted by COVID, but as has everything else, I just guess it doesn't really matter. But yeah, I'm happy to take any questions about student life, because I've honestly really enjoyed the experience so much.
Absolutely. We'll get on to some of those questions in just a sec. Thank you, Rebecca. First, though, Melissa, you're also in Rebecca's year group at Brighton and Sussex. Tell us a little bit about your journey to medical school.
Sure. Isn't school.
I'm terribly sorry. As I said, we're going to be experiencing some technical issues, obviously, as we're all remoting in from our various locations. We'll try and get Melissa back shortly. Let's start with a question for you, Jane. I understand KMMS students will be both members of Kent Union and the Union at Canterbury Christchurch. What does the union offer for students in terms of wellbeing and support?
So from pre-arrival onwards, both the unions are there for students. There's a buddying scheme for new arrivals, literally start before they come, and then help them to get settled and oriented to both university sites, because that will be a different area. Students will work across both the Kent and the Christchurch sites. So they'll be there to help them to support them to do that. They'll be there to help them to join various societies. And what will happen is there will be a thing called MedSoc that will be developed within KMMS, and that will be supported through the students' unions. They also provide advice on housing and finance and general well-being. So there's lots and lots of support there that from the very beginning all the way through till when you graduate.
As you said, really something for everyone, and someone to answer anyone's questions as well, which is going to be really good to know for those prospective students. Rebecca, you've obviously been at medical school for a number of years now. What have been some of the highlights for you?
So I think just because medical school inherently attracts very motivated and hardworking people, that extends outside the classroom and outside the clinical setting so much into student life. And that's, I think, the bit that has been the highlight, is just meeting so many diverse people, and so many people are passionate about things within medicine and also outside. So while obviously classes and placements have been amazing, I guess the student life aspect of being involved in sports with people, you know, who have played at a very high level in like various different things. You also, because BSMS, like Kent Medway, is part of 2 universities, you have so much branching out to do. And there's so many different opportunities for whatever you might be interested in, even if that's not medicine related. So personally for me, what I've really enjoyed doing while at medical school is I've been part of various sports, so part of the tennis team. I really enjoy photography, so I've been working with parts of the university that do like student productions and that kind of stuff, and doing the photography for them and trying to branch out as much as possible. But also at the same time getting involved with things both inside the medical school. So if that's with a surgical society or a peer teaching society, so we have a very strong community of students that teach younger years for clinical skills and stuff like that. So I think it's just the diversity and the fact that everyone's really motivated to get involved. That's been really, really nice.
Absolutely, diversity and a real wide range of opportunities for students. I think, Jane, you're going to tell us a little bit more about that. You prepared a short presentation for us.
So yes, if you want to go to the first slide, thank you. So KMMS takes the student view on studying with us really as a really crucial part of what we do. So we've done lots and lots of work talking to the applicants that you are, potentially our new students that you've just been seeing, the students from Brighton and Sussex Medical School, and other students from across both Kent and Canterbury Christchurch, to ask them what is it that they've been most excited about if they were coming to us to study medicine. And you can see here from these, I'm just going to show you very briefly 3 word clouds that will give you some idea of the sort of things that people are excited about. And learning, obviously, but for me in my role as student life and wellbeing manager, helping people and community and diversity and sharing with our peers are really important, as they also chime with the KMMS vision and values. If we can go to the next one, please. What were they most concerned about? What are students concerned about when they come to university, not just at medical school, but university in general? And these are the same. We do understand that for medical school students, the workload is higher than it is in the general student population. And because of that, we're in place already to ensure that whatever support you need is there. So that's not just making sure that you can get through the results, through the exams, or through your assessments, or through your placements, but also helping you to calm and relax and find well-being activities outside of medicine. And finally, of these clouds, the next slide, please. And finally, with this, what do you think, what do students like you think that is most important to be offered in order to help you to succeed? And right in the middle here, it's support. So this is of huge importance to myself. But I have to tell you that this is central to every member of the KMMS team. We are really clear that it's our job to support you as you move through this process. It's actually going to be a privilege for us to do so. Next slide, please. So in order to enable you to come and enjoy a place in an excited way, and to manage your workload and to deal with any stress or additional help you might need, there are a wealth of services available. Both universities together are older than, if you put them together, older than 50 years. And there's all that experience within the university to provide student support. KMMS and my role and my team will be to provide the doorway support. So as I said earlier, we'll be a friendly face that if you've lost your bus pass with, you can come to us and we can help you with that. You might need very simple advice as to what to do next. We can refer you and signpost you to wellbeing and mental health services at both the universities. And if you have any kind of disability or learning need, then we also have a huge range of people ready to support you right from the point of joining us with those sorts of things. KMMS has its own IT and library technologists. We have a team, again, internally to support you with that. Both universities have a learning support service, which isn't seen as remedial in higher education. This is seen as where intelligent people go when they need a bit of extra help with something. And they're very active across both universities, and you will be able to access them. We have careers and employability here, and of course you're hoping to train to be doctors, and that's what we want you to be. But there's all kinds of doctors, and there's all sorts of ideas about how you will be able to use your skills. It may also be that at some point you might think about diversifying. So careers and employability, a wealth of information and support available, once again, from both universities. On the University of Kent campus, there is a GP practice, a medical centre, and there's also a nursing service that's open 24 hours a day and is accessible to all Canterbury students, both Kent and Christchurch. And when you arrive with us, we'll be encouraging you to sign yourself up with a GP, so that you'll have all of that support available immediately. We talked briefly before about student unions, but they have advice centres, and the University of Kent will be the one that supports KMMS students, and they have, again, a range of highly skilled and highly experienced advisors that can help you with any issue. And at the very bottom, job shop and uni temps. Some students have time, you may have time to work in paid or voluntary employment outside of your degree. And if you do, then there will be a wealth of support within the team and also from your clinical placements. But both universities also offer job shops to help you look at part-time, weekend work, or voluntary placements. So as you can see, there really is a huge wealth of support. I'm not worried about supporting you, but I'm sure that you and your friends and family may be. So if you have any questions, please do come back to us in the question and answer section. Thank you.
For that, I'm pleased to say, Melissa, we managed to get back on the line now. Melissa, as you were saying, you're on the same course as Rebecca, a fourth-year medical student at Brighton and Sussex. Tell us a little bit about what some of the highlights have been for you on the course.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, sorry about that. Yes, so I'm a fourth year and I'm on the same course, and I also live in Medway, so I know a little bit about the area as well. So some of the highlights was definitely the very early clinical exposure, being able to start medical school and straight away feel like you're actually kind of training to be a doctor, going into the GP practice and the hospitals, and also the dissections as well. That was a really, really incredible learning opportunity. And also being part of two medical schools, two universities, just like there'd be at Kent and Medway. That's brilliant. It provides the best of both worlds. You can access so many resources. So it's been an incredible experience, absolutely wonderful.
You mentioned clinical experience there right at the start. We've had a question from Dia on YouTube. She said, will we be disadvantaged if we haven't undertaken any clinical work experience? You obviously said that you got exposed to that very early on your course. What would you have to say in answer to Dia if she's, before taking the course, she hasn't had any of that clinical experience?
So I don't think it wouldn't disadvantage you at all, really. So I only had very minimal. I'd only been into, I think it was for just half a day, 4 times, I think, into an outpatients clinic. So that factor of it wouldn't disadvantage you at all, because you also have all the clinical skills teaching as well. So they'll give you a proper constructed teaching on how to take a history, how to examine patients, how to introduce yourself, and then the actual teachers in the practice, like the GPs and the doctors, they understand that you're a first year, this is your first time talking to patients, and they're really understanding of that, and they'll guide you through it and help you, so it shouldn't put you off at all. It's not necessary to have any kind of big clinical exposure before.
That'd be good for the likes of Dia to hear. Rebecca, we heard from you earlier on talking about all those amazing experiences you've had, the various placements, being part of the tennis society as well. Have there been any challenges? Have you found at any point on the medical degree there's been any challenges that you've had to overcome?
I think that probably Melissa will agree with me that at the end of the day, medical school isn't easy. I think it's a big workload. It's a lot to know. Learning changes a lot from when you're in preclinical to when you're in clinical years. So preclinical, it's more lecture-based, more like teaching-based. in a university setting, whereas when you're in clinical, you're learning a lot on the go, you're on the wards, you're in the hospital. And there is a lot of content to absorb inherently. And I think everyone kind of knows that already anyways. So I do think that academically, sometimes it is quite challenging. But at the same time, while that of course is difficult because medicine isn't the easiest of degrees, at the same time, I think because everyone goes through it together and everyone's revising together and everyone's kind of going through that same experience, it almost bonds you a lot within the student body because you end up revising with your friends and going over things. And because you go over things in so many different ways, no matter what kind of a learner you are, you kind of figure out what works best for you. So if in dissection you learn really well because you're quite visual and you remember things from being there, that's fantastic. Or you also have opportunities to, be in lectures. And if you learn better from that with that very structured information giving. So there's definitely ways of finding your niche of revising, but I definitely think that it's something to get used to. I personally was a graduate student when I entered, so I'd already done a degree, but it was still a very different type of learning. And I'm sure that that's true for everyone, even if you come from A levels or whatnot. It's just a bit of an adjustment at the beginning, but I think everyone gets used to it quite quickly.
Melissa, what about for you? Obviously, there's, as Rebecca said, there's a really strong community there. How helpful did you find that was in maybe overcoming some of the challenges you faced on the course?
Yeah, I think it's vital, and not just within the kind of student community that you create as well, but all of the staff that help you as well, especially like the clinical skills teams, and they're really all just as important as each other. And it is that thing of they want to help you as much as possible to make your experience as easy but also as enjoyable as it can be as well. And I think if anyone's worried about the workload and passing exams and things, no one wants you to ever fail, and they do their utmost to make sure that you're as competent and as confident as well in what you're doing. And I think, as Rebecca said, yeah, the group of friends that you make is so vital to helping you, and you're all going through the same thing. But that's also goes for the teaching staff as well. They know exactly how you're feeling and how stressful it can be, and they prepare you so well for exams like the OSCEs that can seem so daunting.
Melissa, Rebecca, Jane, thank you all very much for being on the call and answering questions this morning. More to come from the KMMS Virtual Open Day after this short break.
I'm Oliveira. I'm the head of medical biosciences and year one lead for KMMS. I'm a pharmacist by background, but decided to pursue an academic career a long time ago, and I've been working in medical education for the past 6 years. So I've joined KMMS last February, and I couldn't be more excited and looking forward to welcome students every year. As year one lead, I'll be seeing you almost since day one, and I'll be able to support you during your learning. I'll be able to see your success throughout the program. So I'm really excited and looking forward for that. So hopefully we'll see you soon.
I'm excited to work for KMMS because as a medical librarian, I think I will never ever have the opportunity again to build a new medical library in a new medical school from scratch. So that's unique, and that's an opportunity of a lifetime, and I'm very grateful to be part of this. And the other reason is that it gives me also the opportunity to work with a lovely, very creative and diverse group of people.
Hello, my name is Dr. Pamela Leventis and I'm a consultant rheumatologist at Maidstone and Tunbridge Wells NHS Trust, and I'm clinical lead for clinical and professional skills at Kent and Medway Medical School. I am delighted and excited to be involved in the development of our first Kent Medical School. In my clinical role, I care often for patients with chronic disease, and I'm fortunate to get to know my patients, their relatives and carers over time, and I can see how important it is that as a school we innovatively develop holistic doctors highly skilled in understanding the evolving needs of our patients. I'm an empathic and person-centred clinician, and I was attracted to KMMS because it offers an undergraduate learning environment which is both student-centred and patient-centred, which is key in developing our future capable doctors equipped to manage the needs of the evolving NHS.
Welcome back. I'm joined by our next panel, but before we hear from Laura and Becky, Sian, let's go over to you. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your role and give us a little introduction to yourself?
Yes, hello there everybody. My name is Sian. I'm an accommodation coordinator in the accommodation office at Kent University. I work with a team of 5 other people, and we basically process all the accommodation on the campus at Kent University. We allocate the rooms, we send out the room offers. You may see us at other open days if you've ever been to Kent University before. We deal with any queries that happen in the accommodation, and basically just enjoy spending time with the students. It's lovely to deal with the students from the very start, sometimes before they've even been offered a place at Kent, and then obviously right through to the very end of their courses.
And we got a few questions coming in about accommodation, which will be hopefully you'll be answering in just a bit. But you've got a couple of slides to tell us a little bit more about accommodation.
Yeah. So accommodation for the Kent Medical School is a joint venture between Kent University and Christ Church. For the medical school students, we're offering accommodation on both sites. So Kent accommodation is campus-based and Christ Church accommodation is city-based. Both accommodation types we are self-catered. One is ensuite and one is non-ensuite. So at Kent, the ensuite accommodation, you'll be sharing accommodation, a flat-based accommodation with up to 6 other students. All the rooms are ensuite, as I said, and you'll be sharing the kitchen facilities. The Parkwood houses, they're non-ensuite, and you'll be sharing with 5 other students, and there are 2 shower room facilities within that accommodation, and again the kitchen facilities are shared between your household. It's very similar accommodation that Christ Church are offering, but theirs is in the centre of Canterbury City, whereas ours, as I said, is on Canterbury campus itself. The contract term is for 45 weeks, and the cost of the accommodation for ensuite is £160 per week, and the Parkwood houses are slightly cheaper at £115 per week.
And tell us a little bit about unions as well. We know that that's come up in the chat so far with some of our previous panelists. What's on offer from students' unions?
KMMS students, you'll have access to both unions. That's at Kent and Christ Church. However, you can only apply for one leadership position in both, but that's down the line. We can talk about that later. We do everything. We do the fun stuff, but we also do the support and the representation as well. So as your elected officers, we will be your voice across the university. We also provide the sport and the societies and all of the student voice things within your courses. So for example, course representation is a really important part. At Christ Church, we'll also be running MedSoc as well. which is being started as we speak. We've had a few students that are coming in September who are interested in being involved, and it is completely student-led. So you have the option to join that, as well as any other societies, academic or not, that you'd like to get involved with.
Becky, thank you very much for that introduction there. Laura, as well, tell us a little bit about your role on the Students' Union.
So in Kent Union, there are 5 of us. Every year you get an opportunity to elect who will represent you in the union. So I represent postgraduates, but there's also wellbeing officers, sport society, all represented across the roles. As Becky's mentioned, it's absolutely brilliant for you guys because there are no constraints based on which union you kind of engage with. You can engage with us for sports and societies, you can engage with Christchurch for sports societies. It's brilliant. But something we're really, really proud of are our rep structures. So Becky's obviously mentioned the Society for MedSoc, but we'll be looking after the rep structure. We've been kind of changing it up this year to ensure that it actually represents students. So with a rep position, if you decided to go for it or one of your friends was a rep, it's an opportunity for you to feed into the university structures. And so in my role, I would be sitting on university boards such as Senate or the Education Board, which ensures that the student experience is as good as it should be, your education is as high a quality as it can be. But the best thing about these rep positions is that you could be, as a rep, also on these boards with us. So you would be directly feeding into the university structures and getting that student voice really heard.
Thank you, Laura. And very sorry, Becky, we skipped your introduction there. Do excuse the weekend brain. Why don't you give us a little bit of an introduction into yourself and your role on the union?
Okay, yeah, so I'm a president at Christchurch Students' Union, so I'm one of 4 presidents, and next year I'll be the union president, which means that I represent all of your academic needs. So again, similar to Laura, I'll be sitting on all the academic boards, which means that I am effectively your voice. Now, the way that our structure works, we are completely democratic. So it means that when you get in contact with us, we take your thoughts, feelings, and the things that are going wrong or right forward to the university to make your experience better. We're basically here for you. So any issues or positives that you do have, we represent you on behalf of you because we know that you're extremely busy. And as medical students, you're going to be even busier than the normal undergraduates that we see. So we will do all the heavy lifting for you. You just come to us with the ideas and the issues that are going on.
Fantastic. Really good to hear about that support on offer, and we'll hear a little bit more about that in just a sec. We're going to come back to both of you, but we've got a question in on YouTube from Samuel. This one for you, Sean. He's asked, how expensive is the accommodation likely to be?
For this year, for students that are coming to Kent or Christchurch in September, it's £160 per week for an ensuite accommodation or £115 per week for non-ensuite accommodation. Obviously, prices do rise. The prices haven't been agreed yet for the entrance for next September, so September 2021. But just to give you a guide, that's what the price is for this September.
And just to follow up from Samuel as well, you talked a little bit about it in your presentation. He's asked where those various accommodation offers are going to be placed. Probably best to know distances from classes and libraries and when best to roll out of bed in the morning.
Yeah, so because it's a joint venture with Christchurch, the lectures and the seminars, etc., are going to be shared between the 2 campuses. So obviously, depending on where you stay, depends on how far the location of your lectures is going to be. So for instance, if you stay on the Kent campus and for some of the week your lectures and seminars are based at the Kent campus, it's literally going to be a 5-minute walk to your lectures or seminars or your social activities as well. But obviously if you do have a lecture or seminar that's going to be down in the city centre at Christchurch, then it's going to be a 5-minute bus journey, and that will be the same for students that are also staying on Christchurch. It would just be vice versa.
Kind of contextualises it there for students, which is good. Samuel, thank you very much for sending in those questions. As I say, we'll hear a little bit more about the support the student unions have to offer. Becky, over to you with a short presentation.
Thank you, Cameron. Okay, so the students' unions, the biggest thing to understand about us is that we are here completely for you. We are actually independent from the university. So any advice or guidance that we do give you, again, is independent. So you can trust us to always represent your best interests. In terms of advice, there are two sides to that. So for example, if you are attending a Kent campus and you need to drop in because you need to speak to someone urgently, you can do that at either unions. It's very, very simple. You go in, you say, I would like some advice, please. You can go and speak to someone. And that it can be academic, pastoral, they can signpost you to the university as well, or anything really to do with any of your experiences at the university. And that's what we're kind of here for. Now, a lot of that within your areas will be based upon fitness to practice and various things within your academic careers. However, it can be other stuff as well to do with accommodation if you need support with that with the university, or anything to do with any of your experiences really. We also have a lot of volunteering opportunities as well. So we support you in your career after Christchurch or Kent. Now, I know that for some of you that will be quite straightforward. However, not always. If you do want to try other things, you can come to us as the universities and we can support you in finding external opportunities to try new stuff. Your sports clubs and societies, now this is fairly straightforward and it's pretty much across the sector. However, our sports clubs, we have over 200, and societies, it's anything from Harry Potter Society to, like I say, MedSoc or Psychology Society. You can also choose to run for leadership positions in these, which means you can run your own society. If you have a look at either of our websites and there is something that you can't see that you're interested in, you can start your own as well. It's kind of a way of building that community outside of your academia. It also gives you a place to meet like-minded people or just try new stuff as well. We do things throughout the year. We've had previously, both universities have had summer balls. We have themed events and nights going through the year. We try and provide as much as we possibly can. Obviously, with the COVID-19 pandemic, we've moved to everything's been online, which we've been really good at fostering that community via an online presence. So when you come in September, it will be no different. The only difference will be that it won't be in person, but you'll still have that chance to meet everybody during your Freshers Week, to have your welcome events. They will just be virtual. So please don't worry, when you come, there'll be plenty of opportunity to meet like-minded people and to really make some good, long-lasting friends. And me and Lauren can attest, as we are previous students, we've literally just graduated. You make the best friends at university, the ones that will be with you throughout the whole of your life, because you go through so much in such a short period of time. So unions are, takeaway message here, we're here for you, for literally anything that you need, whether that's the fun stuff or the not so fun stuff. We are, again, external from university, so we will always support your best interests.
There we go. As is ever the case, putting students first is the most important thing. Sian, a question again about accommodation. Could you tell us a little bit about the areas where the accommodation is based? You obviously gave a kind of an insight into where it's located in proximity to campus, but maybe tell us a little bit about the area and the environment around there.
So the accommodation on the Kent campus, the University of Kent campus is set in 300 acres of woodland. So it's really, really beautiful. It's very green, very environmentally friendly as well. Parkwood itself, where the accommodation is for this entry of students in September 2020, it is surrounded by woodland, as I just said, and within that you have what's known as Parkwood Village. So there are over 1,000 rooms of student accommodation, both flats, and then we also have 5 and 6 bedroom houses. There is also a Parkwood administration building where you have a reception, which is where you would have your parcels and packages, etc., sent to, and then you would visit them to retrieve those. You also have your key sign in and sign out at Parkwood reception, and they're also on hand as well for any queries that you may have. They're generally open 5 days a week, Monday to Friday. There is also a building there which has the Co-op supermarket. Kent Union also have a bar there which is new, a dance studio, and I think that there's a small restaurant there as well, so it's quite good fun. There is a computer hub as well just outside the Parkwood administration building. So within Parkwood Village itself, there are quite a few facilities that students can make the most of. And then you literally have the 5-minute walk into what's known as the main campus. And again, you have another co-op on the main campus, as well as the venue, And then all the different colleges, which inside each college, again, have a different themed catering outlet. We also have a cinema and theatre on campus, which is called the Gulbenkian. So you might want to have a look online to see the types of films and theatre productions that they run at the Gulbenkian. Not far from Parkwood Village itself, there is Kent Sports, which is a huge gym. Again, they have their own website, so it'd be a good idea to have a look at all the gym classes, opening hours, etc., that they're able to offer.
Thank you very much for that, Jane. Becky, you were talking a little earlier on about voting. Can students get involved in enhancing the experience of others? Can they run societies? Can they set up their own societies? Can they do like what you've done and represent students that way?
Absolutely. There are so many opportunities to really get involved and affect change. One of the big things that we do as unions generally is about campaigning. So if there is a problem that is happening within a university, whether that's a small departmental issue or that's a wider systemic issue, you come to a union and we really use our platform and our voices to support you in that. So in terms of societies, you can run for committee positions. So that's president, vice president, treasurer. On sports, exactly the same with captains, if you're interested in that. You can do all of those. The only thing I will say is that because you're part of both universities and both unions, you can only run for leadership positions in one. So you kind of need to choose which one you want to run for. You can also run for sabbatical officers. That's what we are as president. Now that happens once a year, and this is a really important paid position. It's full time, and that you generally take out a year of your study to do. Or you do at the end of your studies. Now, this is something that I was passionate about because I wanted to influence the experiences of other students based upon my own. So that's why I ran. And you can do exactly the same. If you get to the end of your 3 years and you think, there were some things there that I could have affected change on that I didn't have the chance to do, I didn't have the know-how to do. At the end, you can be a sabbatical officer and you can really push your agendas and push your campaigns through. That's what unions are important for. It really empowers you. And even if you don't want to get involved in leadership positions, come to us and we can help you do that through other channels. And we have various structures in place because we are democratic that enable your voice to be heard with you putting in minimal effort.
Graduate experience, and I understand your plans might be slightly different, but why should prospective students look at staying on in, maybe not just in education, but staying on and living in the county of Kent and Medway? What does that have to offer for students?
Well, there was something when I was going for my postgraduate, is that there's something very special in Kent. You have so much to offer, like the campus itself I just find absolutely beautiful. The library is just something beautiful that overlooks the Canterbury Cathedral. It's just this lovely kind of community in Kent. And then there's that Christchurch element, and I think that's why the medical school is so beautiful. There's always been that competition. We have our varsity every year between Kent and Christchurch, and it just brings the two communities together. And it's the reason I stayed on, because I couldn't let go of what Kent has to offer. It's beautiful. You're so close to the coast. You can travel into London. You have so much history here, and the universities are just part of it. So it's something that when you're looking at a university to come to, you look at what else you can gain out of it. For me, it was employability. It was volunteer and fundraising, and then going on to my postgraduate to gain more experience for the future.
Paint a really picturesque picture there. Sian, Becky and Laura, thank you all for coming on today. Another short break now, and then we'll be joined by our final panel to answer all your questions that you've been sending in. So join us again very shortly.
My name's Edith, and there are many reasons why I chose KMMS. Predominantly though, I chose it because of their huge focus on patient-centred care. Now, family members that have been carers and nurses have ingrained into me that it is vital for patient treatment and patient care and well-being, and that good bedside manners is what makes a good doctor. The fact that KMMS values this and wants to focus on this and put this into their curriculum is massive. And the fact that their other values also coincide with my own is one of the many reasons why I chose KMMS. I honestly truly believe that with these values in hand, KMMS will make us brilliant doctors that truly care about our patients.
I applied to KMMS for a number of reasons. The first reason for me, as a graduate, KMMS looked at me overall. They took into account my personal experience, my qualifications and my score, and put them together to give me the opportunity to study medicine with them. Secondly, I feel that being part of a new medical school is something that really excites me, and being provided the opportunity to be part of that first cohort, drive a new, innovative and forward-thinking medical school, combining that with research, technology, innovation, I think is something really exciting, and I'm really looking forward to studying medicine at KMMS in 2020.
I chose Kenton Medway Medical School because I was impressed that they had such a high focus on student well-being and support, and I was excited that I would be able to partake in placements in the local community, and that one day I would be able to contribute to Canterbury and East Kent as a medic when I graduate.
Hi everyone, my name is Neha and I'm a graduate student starting at Kenton Medway Medical School in September 2020. I chose KMMS for several reasons, but mainly because as a graduate I will benefit from the clinical placement offered from the first semester. I also really appreciate the outreach programs that KMMS offer. Along with the other students, we'll be able to encourage sixth formers to study medicine at KMMS in the future.
I truly believe and trust that this school will shape me into the doctor that I want to be, thanks to the values they promote and the importance of patient interaction within the curriculum, and also the wide range of support offered by the school. Moreover, as a student coming to the UK from France, it was important for me to choose a school that wouldn't make it too difficult for me to get back home, and from the beautiful city of Canterbury, I think I will have achieved that.
The reason why I applied was KMS was new, meaning that they could take the old and mix it with a bit of the new. And that really was apparent to me when I went to the applicant day, because they really talked about the demands of the NHS now as a doctor and what it may look like in the future and how they want their KMMS graduates to be prepared for that. Also, when I went to the interview and the applicant day, I really just saw how much people actually wanted you to succeed and do your best and cared about you from the beginning, and that's why I chose KMMS.
I knew I wanted to go to a place that would make me the best doctor possible, so I spent a lot of time researching different medical schools, and the things that I was looking for initially were an integrated course. I just think that's the best way to learn, it makes sense. Dissection and a nice city, so Canterbury had all of those, so I went to an open day to see what it was all about, and I just got a really good feeling that was so supportive and caring. I guess it's hard to gauge online, but it was different to other medical schools in that way.
And I'm pleased to say I've been rejoined by Professor Holland, Dr. Amito and Dr. Chan for this final panel session to answer all those many questions that you've been sending in. So let's get started. Professor Holland, let's begin with you. Do you know which hospitals the placements will be taking place in for the 2021 students? That's a question from Harry.
Yes, thanks Harry for the question. We do. We're Kenton Medway Medical School, so we don't have a conventional main teaching hospital the way a lot of particularly the older established medical schools do. All of the acute trusts and the two mental health trusts in Kenton Medway are looking forward to welcoming our students. Students in the programme go on their hospital placements from year 3 of the programme. In years 1 and 2, they're community and general practice placements. So 2021, need to do the numbers in my head. That means that 2024 will be when you enter hospital placements.
Fantastic. So lots lots of opportunities there. A question for Dr. Ramito. This one from Samuel. He's asked, will we have lectures at Kent and Canterbury Christchurch University on the same day?
Thank you very much for the question. No, you won't. So what we've done is we've made a commitment that in any one day you're going to be on a single campus, and that potentially means that staff might move to where you are, but we've made sure that that's going to be the case with the timetable, because we think that anything else would be disruptive and would ask too much of our students to move around and would lose valuable time in the timetable.
And kind of off the back of that as well, this feeds into another question we got from Adan Khan. He said, are we expected to make our own way to placements, or is there a specific public transport which KMMS students can use?
So with regards to placements, we are expecting students to be able to make their own way, but they are supported in doing that. So in terms of how they might go to placements, one of the things that we've thought about when we've done the placement allocations is what the ease of access is. And all of our placements have to be accessible by public transport with relative ease. In terms of supporting students, there is a travel and accommodation policy for placements. So if students, for example, go in their personal cars or do car sharing, or if they choose to use a bus or a train, then they are supported financially with the cost of doing so.
Dr. Chan, we're going to stick with you for a little bit. We've got many questions in about admissions. This one from Ellie. Is there going to be problems regarding the number of deferred entries this year? Will it affect the 2021 entries?
Yes, that's a very perceptive question, and that's because most medical schools have over-offered to their students this year, and therefore there may be a lot of deferrals into next year's cohort. That has not happened with KMMS. We have luckily just hit about the right number, and there'll be minimal number of deferrals, possibly none at all, from the 2020 group into the 2021 group. The only possible exception to that are those people who do not achieve their offers with calculated grades. They have a right then to sit the autumn series of A-levels, but the UCAS rules are that they do not have the right to carry over their 2020 offers into 2021. That depends on us, and we'll make an individual decision on that.
A question in from Asiya. She's asked Dr. Chan, if you're an international student, can GCSE equivalents be used in place of GCSE results?
I don't want to answer that question directly because I don't know what GCSE equivalents Asiya is referring to. But if she wants to send an email to the admissions address, then we can address personal eligibility in that forum. And you know, this is public, and it's not good to discuss your individual situation here.
Of course, absolutely. If you do have any of those questions, you can send those separately to admissions@kmms.ac.uk, and the team will look to answer those for you. Another question as well, Dr. Chan. What is the English language requirement for the course?
We will put well, there is already an existing link to that on our entry requirements page. So if you have a look at that, you'll find it.
Fantastic. I'm just scrolling through the many questions we've got. One here from Alexandra. Is there any courses that allow transfer into the medical course after the first year? And if there is, what would you need to achieve to do this? Professor Holland, would you like to take that one?
Yeah, that's a good question. This is something that a very small number of medical schools in the United Kingdom allow in their regulations. I think it has to be said that even in the programs that are permitted within the regulations, the number of students who transfer midway through a program that they start off in that's not medicine, that number of transfers in is very small indeed. We have no such arrangements with any of the other programs in either of our two parent universities, Canterbury Christchurch or Kent. And if someone is trying to think of if I can make the inference, if somebody is thinking of trying to have a plan B in case they don't get into medicine on the first attempt, I think they're better off completing the whole of their first degree and trying then again to get into medicine as a graduate entrant into medicine.
We've had a very specific one, kind of on that subject, Professor Holland. Someone's asked, can you intercalate in psychology?
So intercalations are something which we're very supportive of. Again, in the wider 4 nations of the United Kingdom, all the medical schools have a slightly different approach to intercalations. Some permit them after any of the 2nd, 3rd, or 4th years. Some only permit them after certain years. Some mandate them, particularly older established schools. Some leave them entirely up to choice. We are very supportive of them. We will only permit them after 3rd year, and that's in the interests of our students, because after 3rd year you can intercalate to do a master's rather than a bachelor's degree. We're not going to mandate it, because it does, by mandating it, you therefore are requiring your students to spend a minimum of 6 years at university rather than 5, and not everyone wants to do that. But I think the other thing that we're interested in and exploring with a lot of people who are involved in the regulation of medical education is whether or not a year out of additional study is always the best way to spend more time at university, if I can put it that way. So one of the things that we're looking at in our program is both in that post 3rd year of program option is the opportunity to spend a year in industry or a year in placement, as it's known in other programs, rather than do another degree. And the other thing that we're exploring is the opportunity to do a PhD, which would come after the 4th year of the program. Both of these are subject to discussion at the moment with the people who regulate medical education, and we'll keep our pioneer cohorts of students fully informed about our progression with those, so that they have enough time to decide what they want to do.
Dr. Chan, a few more admissions-based questions here. One from Anurag. He said, would you happen to offer foundation degrees for medicine like other university offers?
I think we've already answered that, Cameron, on the chat. We only have a standard A100 course. We don't have a 6-year foundation course. So there is no course to apply to that.
Kira's asked as well, we obviously had you talked a little bit about the UCAT cut-off point. Is there a cut-off point to put in KMMS as a 3rd or 4th option?
Yeah, Kieran, when you apply to medical schools through UCAS, although you rank the options, the schools you've applied to can't see how you've ranked them. And so the answer is that it doesn't matter if you put us 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, or 5th. We don't know. And so we apply the same policy.
Ellie's also she's interested in the interview process. Dr. Chan, could you tell us a little bit more about that interview process?
Ellie, we extensively communicate with all the applicants that are shortlisted for interview. And so emails goes backwards and forwards, but there are actually resources on our website, including films of what the interviews are like. And so we will do that, but they're actually available now. So if you go on our website and look for the MMI films, you'll be able to see that. The main thing is to listen to Samahat. The main thing is to listen to Samahat, that the KMMS interviews are way different to anybody else's. And so pretty much everything that people tell you about other interviews does not apply to KMMS.
And I think you might have touched on this a little bit earlier on as well, Dr. Chan. Just a final question with you for the time being. Jamil's asked, the results of the autumn A-level exams will come out after the deadline for the 2021-2022 UCAS medical school. Have you decided the admission policy for those students? I think you might have touched on this a little bit earlier on.
Yes. If you did not hold an offer with us in 2020, you would then apply as a post-A-level student using your calculated grades from 2020. You then have to say that you are taking the autumn series exams. Then we will disregard your calculated grades, and we will look at your senior achieved grades, which will then be your GCSEs. Does that make sense? If you already held an offer with us in 2020, then you've already gone through that process, and so therefore we will look at you again. But of course, there's no prohibition against you reapplying.
Absolutely, and as I said as well, we can keep the conversation going after this live event. If you have any questions, you can send them to admissions@kmms.ac.uk. Dr. Ramito, we've got a question regarding OSCEs from Amy. She's asked, can you resit them?
The way that the OSCEs are set out in our program is that they are sequentially tested. So with any OSCE that you have across the 5 years, you've got one part on which you then receive feedback, and unless your performance is so exceptional that we can be certain that that is a definite pass, then you're going to be invited to do a second part OSCE, and it will be the collation of those 2 marks that would then give you your score. Because of that process, we wouldn't separately also have an additional reset opportunity. So the short answer is no. The OSCEs don't have reset opportunities, but what they do have is they have a 2-stage process so that we feel that students can get feedback, have a second attempt on a separate occasion, having had some feedback on their earlier performance in order to improve and get a pass mark.
Got a couple more questions for you, Dr. Ramito. This one in from Camille. How is the teaching style? Is it more PBL? I'm guessing she's talking about patient-based learning, or is it more lecture-based?
So we plan to have a primarily lecture-based program, but what we want to do with our lectures is to try and make them flexible and accessible to you in different ways. So some are going to be live events and scheduled as a typical lecture would be. And for some of our cohort in the 2020 intake are going to be experiencing those same events as live webcasts. In terms of the proportions, we would have more lectures than we would have PBL or sort of case-based learning type activities, but we do absolutely plan to have those. We anticipate that our lectures or sort of informations, which will be a combination of lectures, e-modules, podcasts, and so on, those informations would then be taken to a separate learning activity, which we're calling team-based learning, where you'd work through problems. So some of the principles of problem-based learning are being applied, but the lecture course is primarily, the course is primarily structured around lectures being a main way of getting information, and then you'd have separate opportunities to apply that.
And Jabaya's asked Dr. Ramito, can you please explain taking a PhD in the 4th year and how that works?
Thank you. I'm going to ask the Dean to respond to that because that's part and parcel of the intercalation question. That would be time separate from the programme.
Yeah, thank you. I'm happy to answer that. So this is something that I just need to make absolutely clear. It's something that's still under discussion. We're not able to say definitely that we'll offer it, but we are keen to do so. Currently, there are only 2 medical schools that offer a combined MB PhD program, Imperial and Manchester. They recruit to those programs in different ways. So at Imperial, you actually apply to the full MB PhD program, and they have a very small number of places every year. In Manchester, it's an expression of interest is solicited from those students whose academic performance in years 1 to 3 suggests that they would have the ability and the interest to do a PhD. For us and for me in the medical school, I'm keen to make sure that Kent and Medway Medical School, going all the way back to the first one of the first slides I showed in our presentations this morning, really does capture not just excellence in medical education, but also excellence in research, and allowing students to have the opportunity to do a PhD as part of their undergraduate experience in a seamless way, really we think would set up those individuals who would have an interest in doing this to be clinical academics of the future. Now, there are a few things that we need to navigate in this conversation. We need to talk to our regulator, the General Medical Council. We need to talk to our provider of funding for undergraduate medical education called Health Education England, and we're actively pursuing those conversations. So it remains an aspiration for us, but I'm not really able to give you much more detail than that at the moment. Again, I stress we do understand that students, whilst they're studying on the program, want to make these decisions at certain stages in the program, and we'll attempt to have that information available for students at the appropriate points in their own personal journey with this school.
And we got a couple of questions again for Dr. Chan, admissions-based questions. One from Clay asking, are you disadvantaged by the admissions process if you're from a selective or an independent school?
Yeah, that's a good question, Clay. The short answer is no. We will compare your performance to the average performance of your school. So if your school is very high performing and you are below that level, then you will look bad in comparison to other people who beat the average for their school. So in a sense, if that's the kind of school that you're on, you might be well off applying to another medical school. The reason for that is that we don't want to have the same admission policy as every other medical school in the country. What we want to do is to give people a chance who otherwise would be disadvantaged by the fact that the current playing field is not level. And that people who have access to different quality of educational resources are still expected to achieve the same level. The evidence says that our best medical students are not necessarily the ones who were one GCSE level higher than at the time of admission. So we are trying to level the playing field, but we will compare you to the average achievement of your school at whatever level you apply, whether it be GCSE or A-level.
Kind of coming out of school, we've had Charlotte Humphreys on Facebook. She's tuning in from Kent. She's asked, do you recruit mature students?
Yeah, you probably saw some film on the people who are graduate entrants, both Neha and Dave, who were on the film are graduate students. So the answer is yes. Just want to add to that if you're not a graduate student, or if you graduated a long time ago, particularly in one of the subjects that we don't accept as a graduate student, you can go through an alternative pathway, which is to go through an access to higher education bracket medicine pathway. Most of you know about that, and so yeah, we will be admitting at least 3, I think, people from that pathway this coming year.
It's great to hear those opportunities are there. We've also kind of coming from from a different age bracket to a different course. We've had Nesha has asked, are there different entry requirements for nurses that are wishing to apply? Like, are there any exceptions in certain courses?
No, we treat nurse applications the same as we treat applications from other graduates, as long as you have a nursing degree. If you go back long enough not to have a degree, but are in nursing, then we would expect you to take the access to higher education / medicine pathway. As far as once you're on the course, you are not exempt any modules, and that's the case for any graduate. So, for example, if you're a neuroscience graduate, you are not exempt the neurology modules.
We've still got a few questions to get through. Thank you all for sending those in. Do send them in. Do keep them coming in. We've got a question for Professor Holland. Obviously, the ongoing situation is a fast-developing one with the coronavirus, and it's changing day from day. We've got a question about that, though, saying, since it's difficult to achieve hospital work experience due to COVID-19, what's the expectation for applicants to have experience?
Yeah, so I fully understand that that's something that our potential applicants might be concerned about. Again, I would go back to sort of pre-COVID information about this that we've provided. We never mandated healthcare or health professions work experience as part of that. Our priority is that we really want experience outside of a formal educational environment to allow those people who can't demonstrate that they have those necessary aptitudes and skills the opportunity to demonstrate that they've worked in a public facing role, that they've worked in a service type role, and that they have had the opportunity to think about what it means to have a vocation and what it means to have a role where empathy might be important. If anything, the opportunities around COVID again have made us all think differently about everything, about the way that we work and practice. I'm here in my home office at the moment, and when I go into work to be on call as an ITU consultant next Monday and Tuesday, again because of lockdown, those working conditions will have changed. But there's still opportunities for people to be able to sort of get the experience in public sector, or sorry, in public facing, public service, and other service type industries.
And as you said, there's obviously you're still on call, and many of the teaching staff who will be on the course will have that experience. Dr. Amita, how valuable is it to have that experience from the teaching staff to impart to those cohorts about what is obviously an unprecedented time?
Yeah, I think one of the big things that we've said throughout our approach to how we're developing our program is the responsibility that our faculty have to be role models for our students. We appreciate that the vast majority, if not all our students, are going to want to be doctors, and therefore by having practicing clinicians on the program, teaching on the program, one of the things that we feel that we can do is we can give examples from our practice, and we can be those role models for those students. And it helps. It's always helped me with my teaching, because you can bring in to your situations the examples that you've had from the patients you might have seen in clinic that week, as example. One of the things that I'd like to stress, however, is that we know that it's important to be a good role model, independent of what your own individual practice is. And what I mean by that is that there are a number of different roles within our medical school staffing who are not clinicians, or if they are clinicians, they're not practicing in medicine, they're practicing in other healthcare disciplines. And I think in the same way in the NHS and in healthcare, you're always going to have such individuals as well. I think it's really important that that role modelling is happening from all of our staff, and that our students and ourselves recognise the value and the contribution of all of those individuals who may not necessarily bring in the clinical experience here. One of the things that I would say that as a clinician, we don't have, as a general practitioner, I'll see a number of different cases and scenarios that our patients or their families would have experienced. I don't have to have experienced them to be a good doctor for them. And so I think role modelling and our own experiences are extremely valuable and can bring a different perspective on this. But I think it's not a requirement for the teaching to always be of really high standard. So I think that's an important message to have. But in terms of empathy for sort of here and now, some of the difficulties that our students and prospective students will be facing in terms of getting that work experience, and the tensions that they're under and the conditions of lockdown, to that, we absolutely can empathise. As you can see from this morning, we're all working from home and in different and unusual circumstances. And so learning, working and practising in this way is something that we're all in this together. And very much that's our attitude as a school, that we see that close relationship and mutual understanding between our students and our staff.
We've heard so many positive aspects, heard about so many positive aspects of KMMS. Professor Holland, let's finish with you. Just to kind of sum it all up and wrap up the programme, what is special and what is so special about KMMS?
Gosh, we could spend the rest of the afternoon talking about that. I think I've been founding Dean of KMMS now for just over 18 months, I still think that I have one of the best jobs in the world. And one of the things that, transitioning from the very beginning of being founding dean, where the thing that was best about my job was the opportunity to set up and a medical school the way I wanted. The thing that has been truly humbling over the journey that we've been on over the past 18 months is that I've been joined by so many people who feel equally passionate. And I really think that that's one of the things that's going to be special about KMMS. And one of the things that certainly I, as Dean, am trying to inculcate into our culture is that we have a sense of community, that we represent to students not only, like I said at the beginning, that we're patient-centered and we're trying to help our future graduates be patient-centered in the way that they practice, but as part of role modeling for that, which Dr. Ramita alluded to as being so important in the answer she gave just a few moments ago, we really believe that we need to be student-centered. And so when our students come to us, we really want our students to feel like they're joining a community, which even if they go to any of the four corners of the world after graduating, it'll be a community that they remain part of for the rest of their professional careers and lives.
A strong message to end on. Thank you very much, Professor Holland and Dr. Ramito and Dr. Chan, for all joining us to answer your questions. Obviously, thanks to you all at home for sending those in. Apologies if we've not been able to answer all of them. If you do have any questions, you can send them to admissions@kmms.ac.uk. You can also, if you want to find out more, you can go to www.kmms.ac.uk, and you can also follow the handle KMMS Med School on social media and subscribe to this very YouTube page if you're watching on YouTube for more information throughout the year. But that's all from me. Thank you very much for joining the Kent and Medway Medical School Virtual Open Day, and we hope to see you here in 2021. Goodbye.